But there's a piece of news coming out of Boston right now that most fans definitely didn't see coming. It's one of those updates that kind of forces you to pause everything else you were planning to talk about and just dive into it, because when it comes to a player like Jaylen Brown, especially considering how important he is to the current and future direction of the Celtics, any injury development is going to be major. So here's what's going on. Jaylen Brown has undergone surgery on his right knee, a procedure called an arthroscopic debridement. Now, that's the kind of surgery that sounds pretty technical and maybe a little scary, but here's the encouraging part. It's already being reported as a success, and the Celtics expect him to be ready to go without limitations by training camp. That's the key bit of information giving Boston fans a little sigh of relief right now. Because when you first hear knee surgery and Jaylen Brown in the same sentence, the first reaction is to brace for the worst. The timing of all this is what's so unexpected. For a while now, it didn't seem like Jaylen was going to go under. Out of knife! There had been murmurs that he was considering it, sure, but the expectation, at least from the outside, was that he'd use the offseason to rest up, get treatment, and come back strong without the need for any surgical procedure. That idea was reinforced a few weeks ago when Jaylen himself mentioned he was just stepping back to mentally and physically reset after a long season. He said he'd consult with doctors, weigh the options, and go from there. It seemed more like a precautionary evaluation than a clear step toward the operating table. And let's not overlook the context here. This is a player who just finished a grueling season, carrying a massive workload through a deep playoff run and doing all of it while clearly not at 100%. When the injury was first discussed, it was called a bone bruise. That was back in March, and it caused him to miss a couple of games. At the time, nobody suspected it was anything more than that. But by the time May rolled around, it came out that the injury was actually a partially torn meniscus. That's a huge difference. It's one thing to manage swelling or soreness from a bruise. It's something entirely different to be out there playing night after night on a torn meniscus. And Jaylen did exactly that, giving Boston everything he had even though his knee wasn't cooperating. And to be honest, if you were just watching the games without knowing about the injury, you probably wouldn't have guessed he was dealing with anything so serious. His production in the playoffs was still solid, 22 points per game, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. But there were subtle signs that something wasn't quite right. That signature explosiveness, that first step that defenders struggle to keep up with, it just wasn't popping the way we're used to seeing from him. There were moments when you could tell he was compensating, when the knee maybe wasn't responding the way he wanted it to. But he powered through it, played with heart, and even had that brilliant Game 5 performance that kept the Celtics alive when things were on the brink. 26 points, 8 boards, and 12 assists that night. He left it all on the court. What's even more impressive is how quietly he handled all of this. No public drama, no media circus around his injury. He just showed up, did his job, and kept pushing. It's clear that both he and the organization were trying to manage things carefully, trying to see if they could get through the postseason without making the situation worse. And for a while, it seemed like maybe he'd avoid surgery altogether. But in the end, it looks like cleaning up the knee was the best long-term move. And credit to Jaylen and the Celtics medical staff for making that call before the problem got worse. Celtics president Brad Stevens made it clear how much respect he has for Jaylen and what he gave to the team during that run. He referred to him as a warrior, someone who takes pride in being on the floor, and someone who was still structurally sound enough to compete. The implication was that the decision to undergo surgery wasn't necessarily obvious or urgent. It was a calculated choice based on long-term health. Stevens also made it sound like he wasn't even expecting this to happen, which shows just how recently and quickly this all came together. This is one of those situations where you just have to trust the process. Jaylen consulted multiple doctors, listened to opinions, and chose what he felt was the right path not only for the upcoming season, but for the rest of his career. That's the priority here. Nobody wants to jeopardize the future over short-term concerns, especially when you're talking about a player who's stepping into an even bigger role next year. With Jason Tatum expected to miss significant time with his own injury, likely the entire upcoming season, Jaylen Brown is now the #1 option in Boston. There's no debate about that. This is his team to lead, and he's going to have more responsibility on his shoulders than ever before. That's what makes the timing of his surgery so important. You don't want any lingering issues heading into a season where he's expected to carry the offense, mentor younger players, and be the face of the franchise on a nightly basis. Getting the knee right now in June gives him time to rehab properly and return for training camp without having to rush. It's not ideal, but it's better than letting it fester and potentially missing games when the season starts. And just to put things in perspective, Jalen's 2024 to 25 season was already hampered by a handful of nagging injuries. He missed 19 games in total, which ended up disqualifying him from postseason award consideration, including All-NBA honors. Back in November, he dealt with a left hip flexor strain. Then in January, a right shoulder issue. February brought knee swelling. Later in the month, a thigh contusion. And all of that came before the major news in March that his knee had a bone bruise, which eventually turned out to be the partial meniscus tear. That's a lot for any player to go through, especially when playing such high leverage minutes and trying to live up to a new Supermax contract. And let's be real for a second. The fact that he was still out there producing, still competing at a high level, even with all that going on physically, it says a lot about his mindset and his toughness. Jaylen Brown isn't just talented, he's driven. He takes his role seriously and he wants to be the best version of himself. He said as much after the season ended. He told reporters that fans can expect him to leave everything on the floor. Next season, that he's going to continue improving and that he's ready to take matters into his own hands. That's the mentality you want from your leader. This upcoming season is shaping up to be one of the most fascinating campaigns in recent Celtics history. The roster is expected to look different. There are rumors swirling about potential trades, salary cap maneuvering, and trying to stay under certain financial thresholds. But one thing that's becoming clearer with each update is that Jaylen Brown is not expected to be part of any trade scenarios, at least for now. That's a shift from how things looked just a few weeks ago, when speculation around possible deals, including wild scenarios linking Jaylen to the Spurs, were popping up all over the internet. But with the surgery now done and a recovery timeline in place, the likelihood of him being moved has dropped significantly. The front office knows what they have in him. Brad Stevens has gone out of his way to express full confidence in Jaylen's ability to lead. He's acknowledged that yes, Jaylen and Jason have drawn a lot of the attention over the years, but there's a reason for that. They're that good. And even if you only have one of them on the floor, you're still in a great position to win games. That's what he believes. That's what the organization believes. And they're betting on Jaylen Brown to deliver. Now, obviously, there are still some challenges ahead. This isn't a perfect situation. Having your franchise centerpiece go down with a torn Achilles and your new number one option come off knee surgery in the same offseason, that's not what any team wants to deal with. But this is the reality now. And if there's a silver lining, it's that Jaylen has shown in the past that he thrives when he's given the keys to the offense. When Jason Tatum has been out in previous seasons, Jaylen's numbers have taken a noticeable leap. He's capable of being the focal point. The question is whether he can sustain that over an entire season, and now we're going to find out. Another interesting detail here is that Jaylen reportedly plans to spend the entire offseason in Boston. That might not sound like a huge deal, but for a player of his profile, it is. In previous years, he's trained in different cities, traveled internationally, done community work in various locations, but this summer he's staying put. He wants to fully embrace Boston, not just as a place to play, but as his home. He's committing to the city, to the fans, and to the team. And as he recovers from this procedure, he'll be in town working on his game, rehabbing, and getting ready to lead. Jaylen Brown is going to be the number one option for the Boston Celtics next season. That much is clear. The only question left is how he responds to the challenge, how he uses this offseason to recharge, reset, and return stronger than ever. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers around the league are intensifying as rumors circulate about the possible dismissal of Joe MAZZULLA from his position as head coach of the Boston Celtics. The basketball world is abuzz with speculation, and insiders suggest that the Celtics management may be preparing for a significant shakeup in their coaching staff. Although no official announcement has been made, sources close to the team hint that Mazzulla's tenure might be coming to an abrupt end. Joe Mazzulla's time with the Celtics has been marked by both promise and pressure, taking over the reins. During a challenging period, he faced high expectations from fans and ownership alike. Yet despite moments of brilliance on the court, inconsistencies in team performance have raised eyebrows among critics. The Celtics, known for their championship aspirations, demand relentless success, and some insiders believe the current coaching approach may no longer align with the franchise's vision. The murmurs about Mazzulla's potential exit have sparked debate across social media and sports circles. Analysts are dissecting recent games, pointing out tactical decisions and team dynamics that might have contributed to the discontent. Questions about leadership style, player development, and in-game adjustments are fueling the fire, leading to a growing narrative that change could be imminent. While the Celtics have remained tight-lipped, the atmosphere within the organization appears tense. Players reportedly are focused but aware of the swirling uncertainty around the bench. The pressure to deliver results is immense, especially in a city where basketball is almost a religion. The Celtics front office is said to be weighing options carefully, considering whether to seek new leadership that can steer the team toward a deeper playoff run. If Mazzulla's departure becomes official, the Celtics would join a list of franchises making bold moves in pursuit of NBA glory this season. The coaching carousel continues to spin, with potential candidates rumored to be on the Celtics' radar. The question now looms: who could step in to replace Mazzulla? And what impact would a new coach have on the team's trajectory? For now, fans and analysts alike remain on edge, watching for any confirmation of this brewing drama. The possibility of a coaching change in Boston adds a new layer of intrigue to an already thrilling NBA season. Whether Joe Mazzulla will remain at the helm or be replaced remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the Boston Celtics are at a crossroads, and the decisions made in the coming days could shape the future of this storied franchise. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.